Back at it at the good old El Cap Studios. Here for Beyond the Scoreboard podcast on Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by El Cap. It's another Wednesday night. Glad to be back in the action, and we're hitting the stretch run here coming up, Eric Thomas. We got 3 more weeks of high school football left to go. Baseball playoffs are going crazy. Hockey season in high school is going to be starting up soon. Volleyball and soccer playoffs coming up soon. It's month of October and November. Crazy, crazy times coming up.
Yeah, hard to believe that that we're 3 weeks away from the end of this. And seems like just yesterday we started, and the fact that this is going to bleed again into basketball season just is ridiculous. At least we don't have any of those crazy, situations where the basketball finals are going to be pushed back a week and a half. But that made for just insanity last year with the end of fall and then the beginning of basketball and games being played the week of Thanksgiving and all that. But it's all going to run together here pretty soon, and we can start looking ahead to playoffs now. We got some potential situations and some potential storylines as far as who may get in, who may not, and it's getting late for some teams, and it's comfy right now for others.
While you mentioned chaos and the playoffs and things getting shifted around, I do want to mention a couple things. I want to give a big shout out to the Tri-County ADs because junior high, we try to get as many championship games going on at the junior high level as we can for our broadcast. Talking with Kim Needballa, the athletic director at Union today, apparently a decision was made amongst the Tri-County schools that the girls' volleyball season did not start at the beginning of the school year, is not going to run in the spring like is typically done because you had too many kids who were trying to do both junior high volleyball and softball across the Tri-County area. So what they decided was junior high girls basketball, the championship game is coming up on either Monday or Tuesday next week, depending on how the teams all decide to play it out. That following Monday is when the junior high volleyball season will begin. And that volleyball season will basically run from middle of October until basically the week before Christmas. And the idea being, you got that whole downtime of after playoffs and stuff are done for football and for volleyball and for soccer across the county. That's kind of a dead time. Then that's the time you have gyms open, not in the middle of the winter. So I think a big shout out to all the area ADs making that decision, because you can run the junior high events whenever you want, and for them to come together to make this happen, get the gym time, allow your coaches to have some time to be able to do things and not be double dipping. I just think this is a big win-win, and I was glad to really hear that idea to get things out there today.
Well, and not many schools, like look at Laurel, they have 2 gyms, so they can run practices simultaneously. They have a wrestling room, their own wrestling room, so they can run, a wrestling practice, 2 basketball practices, or whoever else needs to use an indoor facility in the winter months. They can run all that at one time. You can't necessarily do that at every school. You're borrowing other gyms, and high schools are probably going to get priority because of being the varsity level and more games and the longer playoffs and the season going longer and all that. So that's a good idea. Just make use of the time while you can. And I'm all for, I think anyway, I'm all for starting the basketball season earlier too. I remember when they used to start this like the Thursday and Friday of the state football finals. And I say start at the week of Thanksgiving if you can. I mean, I understand people are going to be traveling and you don't necessarily want to play stuff over Thanksgiving. There's going to be football anyway on Black Friday. There's going to be football that weekend anyway. So you might as well, if the schools aren't going to, it's only a fine amount of schools that are going to be involved in those playoffs at that point. So not every gym is going to be handcuffed by not having staff. Just start the season a week earlier.
Or at least give the teams the option to, if that's what
if they want to. Yeah. Just have a preseason tournament or whatever, not a league game or anything, but, start it when they can and get some of these out of the way. And maybe you build in extra time off then. If you don't do anything over the Christmas holiday, maybe you build in some extra time off, some extra time to practice and, get focused on when that calendar flips and you got to start playing your conference games. But I think we should get that over with. I don't think that the championship week in Division I, like with all the conference tournaments, that's when our state finals should be.
Yeah.
I think in the state anyway. So you start them in November, you get them over that week. The whole month of March is basically gone at that point. Then it's not booked with anything. Your spring sports have more time to get acclimated. Yep. Use the gyms for some of these schools that, might be held up with basketball. And then you can start spring earlier too. So you're not dragging the state finals into 2 weeks after some of these kids graduate.
Yeah. That's a whole nother issue to look at is how late it goes into the spring. But at the same time, that's when you got the best weather, so I'll also enjoy that. But you're right. It's a miracle we don't have more kids that have to go off, to boot camp or something like that and have to miss state playoffs because of it.
I remember when we did the state softball finals this past summer, and it was like we were done with it that Friday night, and it was like, all right, see you in a couple weeks for football.
Yeah.
It's like there's no downtime.
Yeah, you're right. We were back here in the studio just a couple of weeks later getting ready for the start of the year. And just like that, now we're at the stretch run with 3 weeks left to go. Before we look at the games coming up this week for Week 7, Game 8 on the calendar, look back to last Friday. It's no secret anymore, Eric. The Newcastle Red Hurricanes are legit. It's no secret anymore. This kid named Marino Graham is the real deal. 5 touchdowns on Friday night in that win against Montour, 34-14. That was an eye-opener and a half, what he was able to pull off and what that team's been pulling off here in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to give credit to our local paper, the Newcastle News, because their headline on Saturday morning was about the Newcastle D, and I do believe that, Marino Graham's, he deserves all the accolades that he gets, and a lot of media coverage there this past week. The Post-Gazette was there, the Trib was there, obviously the hometown paper is there, but you had several others. Pittsburgh Union Progress was there. Everybody wanted to see this young man perform, and he did. Yeah. He put on a clinic again, 4 touchdowns and, over 200 yards of offense, and he's closing in on being a 1,000 player. We'll talk about that in a second. But to me, the story of that game was with the defense of Newcastle, and I've said it now for weeks that their defense is playing at a level that other schools in this area, with the exception of Laurel, have not hit this season. I think Neshannock has a shot to get there maybe because they've played pretty well the last few weeks, but Elwood City's defense has been tough. They haven't been on the level of Newcastle's. Even Laurel's defense, they haven't been tested by Aliquippa and Montour. That's no knock on them, just who they have to beat, who's in front of them. And Newcastle's defense has risen to the occasion week after week, still one of the best run defenses in all of Class 4A. And they completely shut down what is now a running attack team from Montour. This is not the throw it all over the yard team that we saw last year with Trey Hopper and those guys. This is more of a power run-oriented team. They use the run to set up the pass. They don't take many chances with their quarterback, Brandon Bennett, who's a sophomore. He's going to be really good, but just needs to get the reps, just needs to get the time in there. This is a rivalry that's going to develop now the next couple of years because both these teams are set up for a 2 to 3 year run because they're loaded with underclassmen all over the place. And that Newcastle defense, James, they were absolutely superb in that game. Interceptions, 3 of them, pressure constantly. Caden Halachko did nothing on the ground against them. I think somebody had him, credited for 76 yards. He only had like 37 yards rushing, 30 yards rushing in the game. I don't know where they're getting the extra yardage from. He did nothing on the ground. As a team, they had like 27 carries for 37 yards. They did nothing.
Because Halachko was the only one who was in positive yardage. It was incredible.
The only one, and everybody else had negative rushing yards for them. They don't have a true threat at catching the football. Xander Stern is pretty good right now. But that
freshman Archie Collins is going to be pretty good too.
He is really good. But they're not balanced like they were last year. They can't, throw the ball 30 times a game and then hand it off 16 more. They're a run-oriented team. And this Newcastle defense didn't buck at all. They were fantastic in that game. And I've said it before, and I'll say it now too, with a class that is now completely wide open. There is no favorite in 4A right now. I think we're gonna lean one way as a general public after Friday because of Mars and McKeesport, but there's no favorite. This team can win out. This team can get a top seed. This team can play at home for the first round. That is huge because they are virtually untouchable at home. And their defense right now is just at another level. Oh, and by the way, their freshman quarterback is really, really good too. I can't not mention that. But the thing that impressed me the most on Friday night was their defense again.
Oh, Mason Cook leading the way. I mean, we were talking in the booth after the game of who was going to be your MVP of the game.
He was flying everywhere.
Yeah, and you and I both looked at each other like, it's got to be Mason, right? Yeah, and seeing the final numbers officially was just proof to that. It also helped that we had a very easy candidate for play of the game. Take a listen back to this. The final of the 4 rushing touchdowns, the one that started the fourth quarter.
5 for Newcastle from their 25 to begin the fourth quarter. Our left up by 15 on Montour. Spartans show pressure here. Shotgun snap near hash for Graham. Design quarterback run. Takes off. Marino Graham exploding to the outside to the 40, 45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. Has a convoy. 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown Marino Graham. 75 yards. No flags with 11:47 to go in the game. The biggest play of the night by the best player on the field for the Hurricanes, and they extend to a 8-7 lead.
The word you used there, Eric, exploded. The quickness that he can get from right up the seam or right up the hashes to the outside is something I haven't seen in a long time in high school football.
He really does a nice job of anticipating the move by the defender too. Like, he sees the field so well for a freshman. And, you know, it's tough for me to compare. I mean, I saw some of the underclassmen. I've seen Matt Sieg play as an underclassman. I saw Terrell Pryor as an underclassman. You know, it's tough to compare to some of these guys that have come before him. But just I don't recall in the brief time I've been here seeing a freshman or an underclassman that good at just looking down the field and recognizing what's going to happen. And, you know, he's not a physical kid. He's 150 pounds, maybe. You know, if he's
listed 150, so we know what that typically means.
He's 5'10", so I mean, if he hits a growth spurt, my goodness. But you know, he doesn't explode through the runner. He just goes right by him. Yeah. He just shifts it into another gear and he's gone. And I can't wait to see him play basketball, to be honest, because I just think he's going to do so much for that team this season and see the court and set everybody else up. And just the way he kind of takes charge of a game. I mean, he's going to walk out on the basketball court, and I love that Newcastle team, especially all the guys they have coming back. They're going to be a fun team to follow in the wintertime. He, number one, makes them better, and number two, he might be their best player already. Yeah. That's scary to think about. Like, the way he can just, you know, Kai Cox will score, and we know that, but just what he's going to do as a point guard, you see it when he plays football and how he just takes charge of everything on the field as a freshman. And running away from guys, he has gears that it's tough to say for a freshman that you've seen guys that have that kind of gear, but he has so many intangibles that you can't teach. And I've said it repeatedly too. This team just does not care what's in front of them. Yeah. I mean, they play like that, they talk like that, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a cockiness about them. They just look at everybody and they go, "Hey, we're good." Yeah, you know, we feel like we're good. We feel like we can't be stopped. We're going to do this, and if you guys beat us, you beat us. And if you don't, you know, hey, here's 34 points or here's 50 points or here's a shutout or whatever. We're just going to go play our game. You
mentioned Kai Cox. He had 8 receptions, too, kind of under the radar, but he caught 8 passes for just shy of 100 yards. Chase Lemon had a receiving touchdown. It's not just Marino Graham. It is the defense, and it is the weapons around him, and it's that offensive line creating a lot of the holes as well. Let's give a big shout-out to the big boys, because they're getting the job done.
Yeah, their offensive lines played really, really well. They reshuffled it from the beginning of the year. In fact, I think they have 3 new starters up front compared to the first week of the season. So they've done a nice job.
Or at least in different positions.
Right. And, you know, that's not easy to do when you're trying to figure it out. But whatever Fred Mazzacco and his team, his coaching staff decided they wanted to do after week 1, you know, they were impressive in week 1, just the sense that they never got rattled against Penn Hills, or week 0. They never got rattled. And they made the plays down the stretch to put that game away. And defensively, they put the clamps on Penn Hills in that game. But you just sort of looked at them like, man, they really need time to kind of grow and sort of mesh together. And whatever change they decided to make, why they did that change up front on their offensive line, you hope for their sake that those kids stay healthy the rest of the way, because they are not letting Graham get touched. They're opening running lanes. They're getting just enough from the running backs. Jermaine Walker back next week, but you know, Roderick Proctor, Maurice Moore didn't have to do a whole lot on Friday night, but when they are asked to do it, they can go pick up 3, 4, 5 yards, and that's a product of the offensive line. Just says, hey, get right behind us. We'll make the hole for you. You run right through it, and you're good.
The other big story across the Lawrence County teams, I think, from a week ago has to be the fact that we now have 3 total records that have been set at Laurel for career records. A couple weeks ago, Jack Miles set the all-time tackles record and did it in dramatic fashion. The first play of the game, defensively on the kickoff, he goes and makes a huge tackle to set that career record. 2 more were set against Summit Academy on Friday night. Lucas Santini sets the all-time passing yards record at Laurel. I believe it's 3,100 some total yards in his career. And then Colton Carlson is able to get the all-time receiving yards record at 1,300 and some at the moment. And still 3 regular season games and at least 1 extra playoff game coming as well. Congratulations to all 3 of them. Took care of business, no question there. 63-8, no surprise there, defeating Summit Academy. Now is going to come the big crux of the schedule with the final 3 of Shenango and then Southside and then Neshannock.
Yeah, and it sets up nicely for them. They're going to get emotionally invested in this game with Shenango on Friday. It's their biggest rival. It's going to be a fun game, and they don't have to go against either one of those other two teams first. I know they get them back to back. That's going to be a little bit difficult, especially whatever happens with Southside and Neshannock on Friday night. The loser of that game is going to be pretty ticked off when they come into next week. But I think getting Shenango first is going to help them, because I see that as being close to a 4-quarter game. Shenango's playing tough enough that they're going to be able to drag that game out, I think. I don't know that they're going to be able to limit Laurel to the point that they need to beat them or be within striking distance late in the game. But I know that the emotion between those two teams, and there's kind of a grittiness about the Shenango team. They're going to be up for the game. And I think that Laurel, knowing that they're going to get their best shot, is going to help them when they go into those final 2 weeks. The only thing I worry about Laurel, James, is two things. Number one, 9 penalties on Friday night. I know you scored 55 first-half points. Some of that's a byproduct of who the opponent is, because Summit tends to draw that out of you a little bit. Union, we saw a couple years ago when they played that Thursday afternoon game, same thing. And, the message whenever you play Summit is don't let them get in your head. They're going to chirp. It is what it is.
And some of those penalties are in running clock time,
and
obviously.
They are, yeah. So, but you still don't like 9. You still want to see your guys play with a decorum and kind of keep it going between the beacons. But I don't like that. The other thing I don't necessarily like is where was this team tested?
Yeah.
So that's why I think the Shenango game is so important, because this is emotionally going to be their biggest test right now.
So far,
right. So, and I think that they need that to help them prepare. If they go win a close game against Shenango, let's say Shenango plays all world in this game on Friday night, and it's 35-20, but it's 14-14 at halftime or 14-13 at halftime, something like that. That's what I want to see. I want to see how Laurel responds at that point, because we haven't had to see them do it all year long.
Not in the conference. Not in
the conference, and that gets a little worrisome to me. Just a little bit. This team is too good to really get bogged down by something like that. But I want to see them pushed a little bit up against the wall or pushed against the ropes, and I want to see them how they respond to that. That's a big key for me. And, if they don't do it on Friday night, if they don't have to do it on Friday night, we're certainly going to find out the 2 weeks after that what this team is made of. That's going to determine seeding. That's going to. I think they're all in the playoffs, but at least the way it looks right now. But I need to see them go through a little bit of adversity to know that they're going to be able to throw some knockout punches. This is a big key, because we really had high hopes for that Neshannock game at the end of the year last year. Didn't happen.
Yeah,
and I want to see.
I don't think they were ready for the big time.
I think they're ready this year. But
absolutely,
I want to see them again, just kind of pressed up against the ropes a little bit and how they come off them.
Yeah, good call there. You mentioned Shenango. Yeah, a tight loss. You look at that final score, 13-12 against Rochester. I don't care what type of team it is. You go down and play at Rochester, you're going to be in a dogfight. I don't care if they have only 9 players going out there to play. They're going to give you a fight. And I give Coach Graham and company a lot of credit. Yeah, they won a game by 1 that they probably should have won by more, but they won the game. They found a way to get the plays that they needed to win. Nico DeSalvo's over 100 yards. McConnell and Albertini each get rushing touchdowns. They're fighting the injury bug right now, too. They got a lot of guys who are out of position. So that's a big win, to keep yourself right there at 2-2 and in the playoff hunt.
And can't afford to lose anybody, because they don't have that big of a roster.
Exactly.
Their depth is not great right now. But also important in this game, the stay-ahead touchdown by Caleb McConnell. That's important for him going forward. You want to see your freshman quarterback respond. He had a good night in terms of completion percentage.
I think it was a 4th down touchdown run too, by the way.
Good night in terms of completion, but he did throw 2 picks and he only threw for 67 yards. So the numbers are going to get better. I mean, he is going to be a really good quarterback. He has the size. He's got the arm. When he learns how to kind of throw with power and a little bit of ease, kind of like swinging a golf club. You don't swing it too hard, just nice and easy, and then you start pounding them right down the middle. He's going to figure that out and be a really good quarterback. But him scoring the stay-ahead touchdown for that team, huge for his confidence, and then getting out of the jam with the 2-point conversion at the end of the game, towards the end of the game when Rochester was trying to tie it, that's huge for them too. I mean, that's a jolt of confidence. They stay in the conversation. That's all this team could ask for when the season started. Just let's have some normalcy. We know the injuries are going to happen. We know losses are going to happen. Just get us to the end of the season. Let us be in the conversation. If we need to win a game late, maybe we can piece it together. But this team is doing what it needed to do all season long, figuring out ways to win some games and staying in the conversation.
If They have Laurel and Summit Academy left. You win one of those two, you're in the playoffs. You beat Laurel this week, and I think that gets you in no matter what. Maybe
You're
not
winning out
guaranteed.
if you beat Laurel, I think.
Oh, well, Fort Cherry still might have something to say about that.
Well,
but
aside from that,
in terms of the
Summit,
conference, you're right for sure. You're absolutely correct though, Eric. That this is a team that they need those little things, and they're starting to matriculate, and they're keeping them in the conversation down the stretch, and that is absolutely huge for this Shenango team that struggled the last few years.
Why would you not want to play Fort Cherry?
Yeah.
To me, I've never understood these coaches that, there was an old story back in the mid 2000s. There's that old Eastern Conference football rivalry that teams that don't make certain district playoffs, like 11-4, and I think 2's involved in it, they can go play for an Eastern Conference playoff, and it's sort of like the NIT. It's like people pay more attention to the big tournament, but this is nice for a little consolation prize. There was a team in the Shamokin area, Lord's Regional, and all season long, Southern Columbia had not been in the top 4. There was only 4 teams that made the playoffs in 2A at that point, single A, I think they were at that point. And Southern Columbia was going to pass Lord's because they played all 2A and 3A schools. So they were going to get more points as the season went on. Well, Lord's decided at the last minute that they were going to buck out of the District 4 playoffs and go Eastern Conference because the coach flat out said, if we can keep them out, we will stay in the District 4 playoffs. If we can win enough games and get enough points, and we keep them out. And my contention is, why do you not want to play them? You're going to get blown out. We all understand that. Yeah. You have no shot to win the game. How do you know that things aren't going to go your way for 20 minutes in that game? And if they do, then you're in the fight the whole way because the other team's going to sit there and their pride's going to be wounded. They're going to be thinking about a lot of stuff they don't normally think about. You've gotten them out of their rhythm. Why do you not want to play these big teams? And, he got ripped for what he was doing, but he eventually got out of the way. Southern Columbia goes and wins a state title. If I'm Shenango, I want to play Fort Cherry. I don't care how good they are. I want to play them because I want to see where my team measures up against what is the best team in single A.
Yeah.
So if I lose 70-0, then I'm going to look for 10 things on film that I can pick out of it and say, we did this against the best single A team. I know we can move the ball in this situation, or I know we can get a first down if we need to. There's going to be some good in that. And maybe they get hot at the right time. Maybe it's their night. Who knows? You never know. But I would not shy away from playing those teams.
The only counterpoint I would make is if, a coach who knows his team and knows that those 10 things that they find on film, if you can find the 10 things on film, which any good coach is going to find 10 things on film that are good, it's how your kids are going to respond to that. Are they going to remember those 10 plays, or are they going to remember the 70 points? And just some teams, some groups just aren't as good at doing that.
Some are too much a product of their environment. That's the issue.
Yeah. So, that would be the one reason why you shy away from that. But at the same time, you want the kids on the team that are going to accept that challenge and then accept the wins that you get from it.
That's the point. I'm not suggesting that they've thought about not playing the game.
I'm
saying that Jimmy Graham wants to play that game. He wants to see how his team stacks up. And I like that. I like that moxie. This team's banged up. They don't have a lot of depth. Okay, let's go play them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's still white lines and hash marks and end zones, and I still got a really talented freshman quarterback who needs to play that level of competition. He's not going to see it every week in his conference, so I need to see him go against it now. Fort Cherry's still the team to beat till Clareton can do it. And
because that's a level of team that you're probably playing in the first round of playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So why not get some stuff on film against a team like that?
The other 1A team from the Big A7 conference, from the Big 7 in Class 1A, is Neshannock. Ended up coming from behind after a couple of early turnovers. They defeat non-conference game Burgettstown 34-7 in that game. The play of the game from that one, I want to give a good shot of this one because it's another 4th down early. They've already had a couple of turnovers, but they trust the quarterback. He's already thrown 2 interceptions. They trust him on 4th and 1 to throw the football.
Aiken now to his left, and he'll give to him on 4th down. Fakes it, pass caught, Brady Frasso, and on the RPO, it's a touchdown for Neshannock. That goes 32 yards.
So on a 4th down early in the game, you're going for it. You're trusting your quarterback to make the right decision on an RPO, and that's a testament again to 3 years of starting QB and having amnesia. He had 2 not great passes earlier. He put that one right on the money.
And not only that, Burgettstown scored first in the game.
Right.
Neshannock was able to respond for it. 4 more touchdowns at 20-plus yards, and now they got something like 30 in the last 2 years, which is just insane. It's 1,600 yards on those 30 touchdowns in the last 2 years. And it sort of surprises me this season that they've been as good of a running team as they have, not because they don't have the piece. I mean, Anthony Aiken is great. Justin Edworthy is rounded into a really, really good change of pace back for them. And he's going to be a very good ball carrier for this team the next 2 years, too, when he's probably the number one guy. But at the same time, a lot of the shifting around the offensive line, they've had to move guys because of injuries. They've had to replace guys because of graduation. And they're running the ball better than I think they have in the last couple of years. And that's a bit of a philosophy shift because Gino Mazzocca was really good throwing the football last year. And they still have weapons. A couple of them banged up, but they still have weapons. And the fact that they're not throwing as much as they did last year, or if they do, it's a shorter pass, let the guy take it to the house, after the catch and run. The fact that they're just pounding teams running the football, I like that. I want to see some physicality out of this team because the way they've been pushed around in those first round playoff games at home the last 2 years, that can't happen this year. Like this is when it's win or go home this year, they got to man up and they're going to have to pound teams and run the football and control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, things that they didn't do against Beaver Falls and Jeanette the last 2 years. This team seems like they're hell-bent on getting that locked in the next 2 weeks, and it started last week with 304 on the ground. Anthony
Aiken now with 4 straight games over 100 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns combined in those last 4 games on the ground. So I like what you said about Edworthy, a good change of pace as well. They're a team that's been banged up. You alluded to it, not just at wide receiver, but tight end, linebacker on the defensive front. They got a lot of guys who are working their way back into the lineup. That's going to be fun as they're getting healthy here down the stretch. We'll talk about their game against Southside coming up, though, because that's going to be a mighty big one as well. The Saturday game we had, Class 1A, Wilmington hosts an undefeated Reynolds team. Undefeated no more, baby. 42-0. Wilmington controlled that game right from the get-go.
And 5 different guys scoring. You had the Ketterings who had big games. You had Zettner who got it going. 21-0 at halftime. Wilmington put no doubt in that. That to me, that Reynolds team it's a much better team than what they were a year ago. I wasn't convinced that was going to be tough for this Wilmington team. They got their tough stuff out of the way. Farrell was it for them, and some of those non-conference games against the Ohio teams. This team's rolling. They run the ball very well again.
And they did all this without Chase Mitchelltree, without Danny Leonard on the O-line. I mean, two of the captain on the line and your top runner. Yeah, it didn't look like they missed a beat.
Nope. And the fact they got Zettner a touchdown without throwing the ball too. Am I mistaken? Was that the most they've thrown in a game this year too?
Yes, but part of it though was all those throws. Maybe one throw was before the mercy rule was in effect. The rest were incomplete pass. The clock's going to run anyway. Like that. They want to shorten a game, and they were trying a couple things, which I respect that. In a non-conference game, where you're in a mercy rule game, let's try a couple of things. Reynolds ran a fake punt, being down by 35 points. This is a chance to try something in a live game. They tried it. They were able to get a couple of passes out there downfield, and you got to respect the pass game a little bit.
Yeah, and just to liking both teams, like working on stuff late in the game, get the full 48 minutes out of it. Wilmington's going to cruise to the end of the season, and till they get to the District 10 final, we'll see. But I still think this team is poised to make a run for Cumberland Valley and play for a single A title. And I just, the health of this team worries you a little bit just because so many guys now are starting to get banged up late in the year, and it's a byproduct of their physicality and how they play and run the football every single play. But this team is just so well polished, and they're balanced again for a running team. It surprises me how balanced they are for a team that's so run heavy. Not gaudy running stats the other night, but good enough to beat a team. And if they just continue to play like that, they're going to be so tough to beat.
Yeah, Freddie Zettner, touchdown run. Rowan Wilson, touchdown run. Kale and Cam Kettering, both a touchdown run. Michael Mastretta, a touchdown run. Kind of like Newcastle, though. It's the defense I want to give a little bit of props to. Our play of the game on Saturday night was this interception that led to one of their touchdowns in the first half. They scored 2 touchdowns in 12 seconds, and then in the second half, 2 touchdowns in 50 seconds. This is the interception that led to that third touchdown of the game.
What do you think? It can't be in panic mode yet.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I just think you got to stay with kind of what you've done well. Obviously continue to mix it up, but make sure Minyares gets his hands on the football. several times on each series.
He's not on this. They're going to go trips to the right and throw in the middle. It's intercepted at the 35-yard line. Wesley Vasquez to the 25, to the 20, makes a man miss inside the 15, to the 10, to the 5, trying to fight his way into the end zone. He's going to be dragged down at the 4-yard line. Change in possession and into the McCandless red zone as well.
So again, getting the pick defensively, Wesley Vasquez got it done. And how about that, too? A kid who was your starting quarterback all last year, was expected to be that this year, basically has given way, steps up, makes a play on defense for his team.
Everybody pitches in on that team. They've got depth. They've got so many guys that can beat you. They've got a physical line on both sides. Their defense seems like it's really rounded into form, which was a problem for them down the stretch last year. That's why they weren't playing for a state final last year. That team looked like they were going to make a run, but their defense had a couple of issues late in the year, so they're rounding that out, and they're cruising right now. There's just nobody right now in that area. I know it's Lawrence County, but District 10 at the single A level that's going to be able to match up with them.
Each of us needs all of us. That's always been the mantra of Coach Philly, and that was definitely the key on Friday night. Real quick, the 3 games regarding 2A teams. Unfortunately, all of our 2A teams came out on the losing end of things. Union loses to Beaver Falls 28-22 in overtime. Mohawk starts strong, ends strong, but started weak, ended weak. The middle 2 quarters were great, but they could not pull it off against New Brighton. 38-35, the Lions with the win there at Oak Hill Stadium. And the third game, Elwood City losing at home to Western Beaver 27-12. Just thoughts on any or all of those?
Yeah, at Mohawk, their only path right now is they got to beat Western Beaver on Friday night. They have no shot if they don't do that. They're looking up big time right now, so they've got to pull off that upset. If they do that, they have favorable matchups the last 2 weeks if they can play somewhat better than what they have. I'm still a little surprised this team's struggling the way they are. Bad turnover by Bobby Fadden late in the game. That's a team that they put 21 on the board in the second quarter. Looked like they were going to take over that game and then just couldn't do it down the stretch. And how about New Brighton? I mean, they're losing to teams that are now ahead of them. That's the problem. So they get no help. New Brighton still has to play, I think, Western Beaver coming up. So they might, if Mohawk beats them on Friday, can get help from Western Beaver down the stretch and then maybe sneak in if they win out. But they have to win out, no question. Union, any shot they have to win out. They need a lot of help. Elwood City, look, they did what they needed to do defensively to stay in that game for the first half. It was a 1-point game at halftime, and then Western Beaver just wears them down with the run game. That's a power running team again.
And they did it without their running back too.
Right, so that's a big win for Western Beaver. And Elwood City, they're still in okay shape. They are what they are. I mean, we've been saying this all year long. Good defense. Team isn't terrible. They don't have like an alpha on offense, but they just seem to figure out a way to get it done when they have to. That's just a different level right now. Western Beaver is the best team in that conference. Everybody's been finding that out week after week. A little surprising to me that they're as good as they are, considering they've had turnovers at the quarterback spot. But hey, I mean, Elwood City of all of them is still in the best shape, so they can still make a playoff run. Mohawk, no chance. If it's must win. It's simple. The playoffs for them start Friday night against Western Beaver. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and it's for Elwood City. It is the Revel Cup coming up this Friday as well against your huge rival in Riverside. You take care of that one, and I don't think it officially puts you in the playoffs mathematically wise, but it practically it'll essentially make them a playoff team. And how crazy is it, before we go to our break here, Beaver Falls right now looking pretty safe to get into the playoffs. They're averaging 10.5 points scored per game on this season.
Yeah, and that's a huge game at the end of the year with them and Elwood City. Like, that is massive game for those two teams. It might not be a win and get in. They both might be, relatively good, but you still want to win that game. And I listen. I have no idea how Beaver Falls is doing this. Yeah. I really don't. Their whole team was gutted 2 years ago. They were a WPIL champ in the championship game 2 years ago. Everybody, including the staff, leaves. It seems like the participation on that team has gone down, and there just isn't like that class that they had a couple years ago with the big guys up front, like with McCoy and those running backs and linebackers and everything. And they're still doing this. I have no idea how they're piecing this thing together.
They found a way.
This is like duct tape. Let's just kind of like put the pieces where they are and say the puzzle's together, and that's it. And kudos to them, because I had no idea that they were going to be doing this to teams down the stretch. I mean, that Mohawk win was like, what's going on here? This team might actually be good. And then they beat, then they win last week against Union, and it's like, I know it's Union, and I know that they've struggled too, but how does this team keep doing it?
Man, they find a
How
way.
are they able to find a level to play up to that a team like Mohawk with more talent can't? That's such a riddle to me this season. I really would like to know like what kind of like is going on with the inner workings of that Mohawk team, just because it puzzles me. There's still enough offense on that team to be the 4th best team in that conference and still get in the tournament.
Yeah.
It would seem like there is. And they're getting beat by teams like Beaver Falls, who are just gritty and figuring out ways.
And that's all it is. Sometimes it's a play or two here or there. And really, you look at it, a play at the end of the Elwood City game, there's one win. A play or two at the end of the Beaver Falls game, there's a win.
Yep.
A play at the end of the New Brighton game, there's a win. You're talking about 3 more wins. We're talking about them fighting this week for a conference championship. Instead, we're talking about them fighting for their playoff lives. That's all it is. You can say that with 3 plays, 1 play in all 3 of those games.
Yep, that's incredible. Hats off to them for doing what they're doing.
We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll break down the games coming up this week and give you a little sneak peek, too, of what's going to be going on playoffs-wise in the other sports here across the county. That's when we return. It's Beyond the Scoreboard podcast here on the Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP.
I love what I do because coming in every day is different.
How can you not enjoy these kids coming up and hugging you and giving you these great smiles all throughout the day?
Seeing the progress that our kids make every single day is one of the reasons I love coming to school.
What should we do? We have fun.
LCAP Early Learning Centers is hiring. Help empower young minds in Lawrence County and become a superhero today. Apply at lcap.org.
Congratulations to our September LCAP Team of the Month. The Lawrence County SportsNet is proud to honor Mohawk Boys Cross Country as the LCAP Team of the Month after winning their 2nd consecutive undefeated section championship. Congratulations to coaches Jared Stratton and Cam Shermer and the Mohawk Boys Cross Country team, the LCAP Team of the Month. Lawrence County SportsNet is proud to honor Neshannock's Maddie Arrow as the September Red Zone Female Athlete of the Month for finishing as section runner-up in girls tennis, the doubles champion in the section, and qualifying for states in doubles. LC SportsNet is also proud to honor Neshannock's Rocco Bayuti as the September Male Athlete of the Month for finishing 3rd in the WPIAL Golf Championships and qualifying for states. Congratulations and best of luck to Neshannock's Rocco Bayuti and Maddie Arrow, the September Red Zone Athletes of the Month.
Wherever you're going, Axe can get you there. The bowling alley, beauty salon, and even the library. Axe can get you there safely. The grocery store, the pharmacy, and the bank. Axe can get you there comfortably. Going to work, visiting a friend, or just to relax at the park. Axe can get you there affordably. Axe is here to get you there safely, comfortably, and affordably. Choose Axe as your driving service and give us a call to schedule a ride.
Three weeks left to go in the football regular season. Just over 1 week left to go in the high school soccer and volleyball seasons. Playoffs will be announced beginning next week. I believe soccer will be announced on Wednesday, and volleyball playoffs on it should be on Friday, yeah, because they have section games going all the way until Thursday. So soccer on Wednesday, volleyball on Friday for the WPIL playoffs in soccer and volleyball. The golf tournaments, their golf and tennis are both completed at the district level. They're waiting for the end of the month before they have the team and individual finals out at Hershey for tennis and at State College for the golf championships. Those are both coming at the end of the month. Again, congratulations to Rocco Bayuti and Maddie Arrow. Maddie Arrow in doubles with Giada Capobianco. They're going for state gold after qualifying for states in their respective tournaments. Real quick, the soccer situation in the county. Wilmington boys and girls soccer both look to be in good shape to be potential region champions. They almost certainly are in for the D10 playoffs coming up in a couple of weeks. Neshannock soccer, they're in an interesting position. We have their game tomorrow. By the time they start their game, they will know whether that game tomorrow is a win and you're in situation or not. If Freedom loses their game tomorrow afternoon, Neshannock, it's a win and they're in. If Freedom wins, Neshannock needs to win and win their final game on Tuesday next week to be able to make it into the postseason. So it could be a very exciting night in Lancer country if all things go their way to make their playoffs for the first time in quite some time. And real quick, on the volleyball side of things, Union is on the cusp. They should make the playoffs as the top 4 make it from Class 1A. They're currently in 3rd in that section in Class 1A. And then the Class 2A situation, Neshannock has essentially locked up the section title. Riverside's right up there. Mohawk and Shenango battling for 3rd and 4th place, and Laurel just a game out right now. That Laurel-Shenango game might be big coming up on Tuesday as well. So we'll keep you tabs of all that, and again, we'll have coverage of as many games as we can come playoff time on Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP. A lot of those games video streamed on NFHS, video streamed on YouTube if we're lucky enough to be able to do that, and if we have the assistance from sponsors like you guys to make that happen as well. But we'll have at least audio for essentially every game that we can cover come playoff time. 3 weeks away from playoffs, though, Eric Thomas, and in general, before we talk about our games coming up this week, what are you noticing in terms of getting ready for the playoffs? You mentioned in Class 4A the big game coming up with McKeesport and Mars this week as one to look out for, but what are you noticing the rest across the district, especially as things that are keeping your eyes open, besides obviously the 4A upsets we saw last week?
There's no favorite in 4A. I mean, it's insane to think that there's no team ranked in the top 10 in the state. Mars is a team to watch, and they'll be in the top 10 if they can knock off McKeesport this week, but no McKeesport. Thomas Jefferson lost to Trinity. I think that's the second time in 3 years they've lost to them. They're sort of in free fall mode. That's a bit surprising. Aliquippa is still good, but they're not the Aliquippa that they were 3 years ago, even 2 years ago when they were beating Dallas for the state title. So I think 4A just really is kind of up for grabs, and I still think 1A is somewhat up for grabs. I still think that's going to be a very deep tournament. There's quality all over that bracket. 2, meh. I mean, nothing really to write home about in 2A. 3A, Avonworth, clear favorite. 5A, I mean, throw a dart. Upper St. Clair is still good. Pine Richland's still good. There's going to be a lot of fireworks, I think, in that 5A tournament, but it really kind of centers around 4. I was talking to Eric Epler, who does the state rankings, earlier in the week, and a lot of my friends in the eastern part of the state have asked about this Newcastle team because they're starting to pay attention a little bit. Or when they read the papers, they see that there's a lot of coverage of them, for a game. A lot of people saw the Marino Graham, the player of the week thing for the Trib and all that. And they were asking me, like, how good are they? And I was like, well, they're good enough to win. I mean, they're certainly good enough to win, but that's just the thing. Like, you just don't know. I mean, on any given night, come on Spell could be what he is in the past. And, he's healthy, but they're still not a knockout team. TJ might find something, deep down and make a run potentially. Mars seems like they're maybe kind of emerging to be the team to beat, but I don't think they're infallible. Like there just isn't anything in 4A that I look at and go, man, if Newcastle gets matched up against that, they can't win. They can win any one of those games. I mean, that's the crazy thing. The way their defense is, the way, they run the ball, and the way Marino Graham is playing right now, they just have to kind of keep it, everybody in 4 has to just sort of keep everything in front of them and not look beyond what that tunnel vision is. And if you're Thomas Jefferson, go win your games. If you're Mars or McKeesport, beat the other one on Friday night. If you're Newcastle, handle your business. There's still, honestly, there's still a way Newcastle doesn't make the playoffs.
Right.
Like, that's absurd to think they're 6-1. They're in the driver's seat of their conference. They have a game lead on just about everybody that they need to have a game lead on. And there's still a path or a world that exists in which they don't make the playoffs. Like, that to me is absurd, and it just tells you how nuts 4 has been this season.
Yeah, and with the current system, only 8 teams make it into the playoffs out of 4A. So that means the way WPL has it set up, the top 2 in each of the 3 conferences will make it into the playoffs. Then the committee will pick 2 more teams. That's going to be the question. Who are the wild card teams? Because I think the assumption would be you have McKeesport and Mars out of that conference, TJ and Trinity out of that conference, and then Newcastle and probably Aliquippa.
I think it's going to be Aliquippa
coming out of the Parkway. Who are your next best teams out of all those 3? That's what's going to be and also a very interesting dilemma that the committee is going to have a fun time trying to figure out.
I don't see any way, to me, that Aliquippa loses to Montour.
Mhm.
I just don't see it right now. I mean, and this is coming from somebody who's only watched Aliquippa on film or off TV a couple times this season, but I just don't see a way in which, I mean, Indiana still has an outside shot, but Mars McKeesport loser is going to be 2-1, and they're still going to have an inside track on getting that. Right now, Aliquippa at 4-2. They didn't play the first week 0, so they're 4-2. I mean, Blackhawk still has a chance. Really, it comes down to this for Newcastle. They have to beat West Allegheny for sure.
Right.
If they do that, pretty much they're going to be a lock because they've already beaten Aliquippa head-to-head. They've already beaten Montour head-to-head. And unless somewhere along the line West Allegheny can get one of their remaining wins over, I forget which one they have to play yet. I think they have to play Montour yet the final week of the season. That's a toss-up game, but right now I would favor Montour in that. So that's going to end up being an elimination game potentially. Might be for both. Might not matter for both, but I just see, they win over West Allegheny, and then they've got one up on the other 3 teams. They beat Ambridge. They beat Blackhawk the final week. It's a wrap, but they may go into that final week with this thing already wrapped up because of tiebreakers. And
Right.
I just don't see I don't see a world in which Montour is beating Aliquippa, so I think it is going to be Newcastle and Aliquippa.
Montour probably has the edge at one of those wild cards, and I completely forgot about Chartiers Valley, who, by the way, is still undefeated in that Big Six conference, at 2-0 in conference and 6-1 overall. So you're probably getting 3 from the Big Six guaranteed, and I would be shocked if you don't get 3 from the Parkway. If you jump down to 2A, the question I want to ask before looking at 2A, who are the top 4 in 1A right now? Who would you rank as 1, 2, 3, 4?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
For Cherry, Clareton, only because they beat him head-to-head last year in the final. Probably would go Laurel 4th or 3rd. And, you'd have to go Canavan 3rd if you're picking Laurel because they beat him head-to-head.
Yeah.
I would probably go For Cherry, Clareton,
Canavan,
and... I mean, Jefferson Morgan's undefeated. Cal 6-1. I'd probably go Jefferson Morgan then. I'd have to leave Laurel out of the top 4.
But probably those 2 are 4 and 5 in one order, right?
Canavan, if they beaten Canavan, then I would say no question. But the 5th team then would be whoever wins the Big 7.
Right. Yeah.
It's whoever survives this 3-team roundabout the next couple of weeks.
Which makes sense completely. So my question is, those 5 teams that you mentioned, the top 4 and then the Big 7 champion, other than South Allegheny, are those numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if they were all playing in Class 2A football this year?
Probably.
That's incredible to think about that.
Yeah, probably. South Allegheny is a clear runaway favorite in 2A. And I mean, Western Beaver, because they can run the football. Seton LaSalle, I really want to believe in that team. I just wonder if it's a little smoke and mirrors right now. So much talent that's not on that team, and they didn't get the quarterback that they tried to, have as their starter. So it's a defensive-minded team that's winning these games, and they probably win the Century. I don't know when they played Washington or if they played them yet.
They do in the final of the year.
Okay, so that's going to be the showdown then for the conference title. Keystone Oaks, still involved in there at 3-1, but this is clearly, and then we didn't even talk about Steel Valley yet, who still has one of the best players in the entire WPIL. So it just doesn't, none of it makes any sense to me. Olsh has looked okay at times this season, but they're not great. So I probably throw them out, but Steel Valley is going to be a tough matchup for anybody who gets them.
And they're coming off a loss to Apollo Ridge that kind of scratched some heads there for sure.
Yeah,
so.
South Allegheny far and away the best team there. But Seton LaSalle, again, if they can get their defense going and playing the way it was, their defense was good last year. I mean, they were really good against that Steel Valley team last year in the Whitfield semis. And I thought for sure that when they won that game, I thought for sure they were going to make a good run to the 2A title game, but just wasn't meant to be. But they're back, and the way they're doing it without all these guys that left and weren't eligible, to me is that's a pretty impressive run for them.
When you look at the MAC conference specifically, Western Beaver at 4-0, Riverside, Beaver Falls both at 3-1, New Brighton and Elwood City at 2-2, and you got games right there, especially that Elwood Riverside game. The winner basically locks in a playoff bid. Again, not officially, but should be in the playoffs with a win. Union and Freedom, winner still has a chance, the loser no chance. And you mentioned it, Mohawk, essentially a must-win to have any chance against Western Beaver here this week. We call this movement week for a reason, because you can have teams that are in the top 2 dropping to out of the race, potentially, depending on how these games go.
So Mohawk, if they beat Western Beaver, will have lost to Beaver Falls, New Brighton, Elwood City. And they would still have a shot to be in the playoffs, which is remarkable. They 2 games left against Freedom
and Riverside.
So they still would have a chance to pick off a team ahead of them, which is big. But they've got to get the first one first, and that's Western Beaver.
Yeah.
If they can win that game, then we talk about it. But if this is it for them. This is last chance. This is win or go home starting Friday night. If they don't win this game, they're out of the mix.
Again, we talked about it right before the break, and that's been going through my mind the entire time. Basically, one play in all 3 of those games down the stretch makes a difference. That's football for you, especially when you're playing in such tight competitive conferences like the MAC has been this year. In Class 1A, you got what we expected. Undefeated at the top, Laurel, Southside, and Neshannock. Technically, Neshannock only 2-0 because they don't have the forfeit win over Rochester yet. That'll officially go in, and they'll become 3-0. But this is what we hoped for. This is what we expected. You got the 3-week round robin here between the Spartans, Rams, and Lancers.
Yeah, and really, to me, Laurel, Neshannock gets first crack at them on Friday night at home. Big game. Crowd's going to be nuts. They're going to be juiced up for this. This has been a sneaky good Southside team. Luke Trevelpiece might be the best coach in all of Single A for what he does with this team. Yeah. They don't throw the ball very well. They're still running the ball well. They have a ton of experience. AC Corfield is still there. They still have tons of guys that we've seen over the last couple of years that are running the football for them. They're a little quarterback deficient right now, but when you run the wing T and you run power run, you don't have to worry about having your quarterback has to manage a game, turn around, hand the ball off, and maybe carry it 6-7 times a game himself. And they're able to get that out of the position. Their offensive line looks pretty good in what I've seen so far. It's going to be a good test because Laurel has the ability, if they get into a shootout with Neshannock, to go point for point. They can throw the ball. They can, play a faster style of offense. Where Southside's going to run into a problem on Friday night with this team is, A, there's a big play waiting to happen. It seems like 6 times a game. Mm-hmm. B, it's a different guy who does it every time. And C, the guys that do it are really damn fast. So
yes.
You have to figure out a way to keep them in front of you and limit those big plays. I just don't know that they have the horses to do it. So Neshannock's going to get them first. And I still think Laurel benefits from playing Shenango this weekend instead of one of those 2 right away, because that way they got to get through like an emotional game and just kind of, maybe get their wounded a little bit, take a couple of right hooks, and get against the ropes and come back swinging and then throw a knockout punch. That's going to feel pretty good for them. If Laurel wins this game easily on Friday night, they're going to walk out of there and they're going to feel like they beat one of those other 2 teams, I think. That's a big benefit to them going into it if you're not going to play them, one of those 2 teams this week.
I'm glad you mentioned the, throwing it when you need to, because it's actually interesting. So Amari Mormon and AC Corfield, both over 100 yards last week. They're a 1-2 punch. They're almost exactly the same in their offensive numbers. They're also the top 2 receivers on the team as well. So those are the 2 guys you got to focus on, both running the ball, and if they play action to one, they're probably throwing it to the other. So
it's the same thing with Laurel. I mean,
it's eye candy.
Carlson's the best player on the field offensively for him. They'll throw it to him. They'll hand off to him. I mean, if your best player can do either one or both, I don't know why you would go anywhere else.
Yeah, get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, that's for sure. And real quick, in District 10, I mean, we obviously expect Wilmington in 1A is going to be the number 1, probably Greenville the number 2, and Reynolds the number 3. Those 2 will play. The winner will be left behind, a team that Wilmington has either beaten 42-0 or 21-7 in the first game of the year. So Hounds, cruise control.
Yeah, they will be on cruise control. I'm going to think that they get Reynolds, and I don't think that's going to be a beneficial matchup. Wilmington can get through the next couple of weeks healthy and not lose anybody else, and they can still play physical, and they can still run the football and pound it. You get into that. Listen, we've been extremely lucky with the weather this year, too. We have not had any bad weather games. Where it's going to get a little nutty is, you get late in the season and the temperature drops.
It's going to get cold on Friday.
It's going to be cold Friday night. The temperature is going to drop. The fields aren't going to hold up as far as like moisture as much. It's going to be slick. It's going to be a little muddy. there's going to be some tracks that are a little bit different. Even if you have turf, it's going to be a little slick out there if the wind's blowing across it and it's got some perspiration on it. So this is going to get a little tricky for teams, and that's why when you run the football like Wilmington can, if you can stop it, I mean, you're going to push a team. You're going to basically put the defense on skates the entire game and just keep pushing the ball down the field. And I think that they'll get Reynolds again. This has been a good season for Reynolds. Let's see how they bounce back on Friday night after getting demolished by Wilmington last weekend. But if they win Friday night, then I suspect it's going to be Reynolds in a couple weeks for them once again.
Before we break down all the games on Friday night, let's go around the county real quick. A quick weekly update here from Union's Gavin Likens.
Gavin Likens with our weekly Union update. The Union girls volleyball team got swept 3-0 by Mohawk Monday night. On Tuesday night, the girls fell 3-1 in a loss to Rochester. They'll be taking on Laurel tomorrow. The Scotty football team fell 28-22 in overtime against Beaver Falls. Monte Booker took over for Union with 121 all-purpose yards, a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and a tackle. The Scotties will hit the road against Freedom on Friday. That's all from the Scotties for now. For more coverage around the county, this is Gavin Likens of Union High School, reporting for LC SportsNet.
Thank you, Gavin. And again, any others across the county that are interested in sending us your little weekly reports, give us a message on social media, talk to your school, whether it be a journalism class or a multimedia class. We'd love to have more of these weekly updates coming across from all the schools across the county. So big thanks to Gavin. I want to mention, too, a pink out volleyball game going on tonight. Union playing 4 games in 4 nights here this week. They are at Elwood City for a pretty cool pink out game going on there. So make sure you check out our friends at ECS for some fun photos and videos from that one that's going on. Time to actually go and break these games down. Let's start with the 4A game, the Newcastle against West Allegheny. Looking at West A, the things that I'm looking at first and foremost, West A does kind of almost like a wing T in terms of the way that they balance their rushing attack.
It's a wildcat attack.
Yeah, yeah. It is wildcat attack, and we saw that in Bob Palco days, and it's kind of maintained that in the years since he has gone away. But they have a lot of great guys. They're splitting the load pretty evenly. And it's assignment football because you know what's coming at you. It's a quarterback running right at you more plays than not. You gotta hit the right gap because you make one mistake, a 2-yard gain turns into a 20-yard gain.
It does, and they've shown some big playability this season, which would worry me if I'm Newcastle, because you can look at some of their games in which they've been manhandled early on in the season and think to yourself, man, this team, what is going on with them? They're not the same team that they were a year ago. They have a really nice-sized offensive line. On top of that, Donovan O'Connor, who took over a quarterback for him, their quarterback situation has been really interesting this year because Brady Malatak was the guy going into the season. Didn't do a whole lot last year. He was going to be the guy in camp, but they were giving other guys a shot to win the job. They had to replace Brock Cornell. Brody Cornell steps in his place, and then you bring in Jacob McNabb, the tight end. He runs a lot of wildcat. He'll be in the fullback spot. He'll be at the tight end spot. They really have 3 tight ends. If Tyler Hatton's healthy, we got some reports that he might have been a little banged up last week against Aliquippa, so we don't know what his status is for the game. Haven't heard anything from Dave Shope, so I don't know what the status of Hatton is, and he's their best defensive player. So he missed all last year with a knee injury, and he comes back this year, but now he's a little bit banged up himself. But they can play 3 tight ends. They bring him in for blocking purposes. They do like to throw the football, but they also like to run the football more so. And I think that plays into Newcastle's strength. I'm not seeing when I watch them sort of like the breakaway ability to take over a game. Now, this is a team that got crushed by Peters Township. I mean, they lost 3 games in a row. You go back to when they played Moon Peters Township. They lost those 2 games by a combined score of 49-3. And then you factor in the Aliquippa game the next 2 weeks later, and they were losing that game 68-10 total in those 3 games. But the game they won in the 4 there is Ambridge, and it was 70-0. So we know that they can move the football and they can score. I know Ambridge isn't, beating the world this season, but still 70 points is 70 points regardless of who you scored against. I just wonder what they're going to be like up front and if they can withstand this Newcastle pressure, because Newcastle is bringing it from everywhere. I mean, Mason Cook is tracking you down. Travis Wetzel played a really physical game last week. That defensive line is in the backfield. They've been rotating guys in. Junior Whittier, when he's not getting called for a penalty, is staying out there. Demetrius Frambro is giving you a couple snaps defensively in the middle. Newcastle right now just has so many pieces, and if you try to throw the football against this secondary, I don't know where you're going.
Yeah, they're playing
You can't
lockdown.
challenge anybody. You can't challenge anybody on their secondary. And Brandon Bennett found that out pretty quick last week. He had no time to throw the football, and when he did scramble, he couldn't find anybody open. He couldn't throw anybody open on the run. I'm not seeing Donovan O'Connor being able to do the same thing. I think this is a game in which Newcastle's defense again is going to show out. And then, they're going to, on the offensive side, they're just going to beat you to death with Marino Graham. Like, it's as simple as that.
Got to win on first down defensively, because when you have a team that's going to run this kind of Wildcat-style offense, you got to keep them behind the sticks and force them into passing situations. Because even games or even locations where you feel, okay, it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, natural passing down, still isn't necessarily a passing down for that type of offense. So that's when you have the best chance to go and blitz all night, Friday Night Lights style. But you got to make sure you win first and second down, because they're going to throw or they're going to run it on even 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and that kind of limits what you can do with your fancy blitzes that Mazzocco and company start to dial up.
I want to point something out here, because this is something I've been paying a little bit of attention to more so in the last couple of weeks. So from Newcastle's standpoint, 2/5 of their offensive line, 2/5 of their offensive line back next year. DJ Gordon and Lucas Morgan, who's been inserted in that starting lineup. Every running back that has played this season is back next year. Marino Graham is back next year. Wide receivers, Cox is back next year. Johnny Taylor, who's now on the depth chart, is back next year. Marquise Wise is back next year. Brandon Brothers, who's been on the depth chart this season, is back next year. If you look at the defense, they're going to lose guys up front. I know it's kind of weird to start talking about this now, but you'll see my point in a second. DJ Gordon's back next year. Gianni Molina's back next year. Dallas Lyles is back next year. Kai Cox, Wise, Alex Williams, and Brandon Brothers all back in the secondary next year. These guys aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, they are not. This is now a 2 to 3 year run. So the point being, if you're going to get these guys, your chance to do it was last year. And if you didn't do it last year, you ain't doing it this year, and you're probably not doing it next year either. So they have turned the corner, and this is what Montour and West Allegheny are hoping their teams can do, because there's a lot of youth on both these teams too. This is the blueprint for how they're supposed to do it. The only difference is this Newcastle team is doing it, and the other two are going through a lot of growing pains right now. And right now they don't have the horses to hang with this team.
Eric, I know you weren't around, 10, 15 years ago when when Coach Mazzocco in his first year at Neshannock, but my goodness, the similarities between those first couple of years and what you're seeing at Newcastle, it's getting a little bit scary. But instead of a guy by the name of Marino Graham, it's a guy by the name of Ernie Burks. Instead of the multitude of running backs, it's the Owens brothers. It's Welker and Conglos, and the names are incredible to think about. And it's just hearing you talk about it just makes me remember more and more how crazy it is and how similar those two situations are. But that's what he does. It's a culture. He's brought it in with him, brought it from the Neshannock, and it's like, we're playing our game, and it's defense first. Again, all the gaudy numbers up front, but it's the defense first that has been the key for them. And you're absolutely correct. Is going to be the biggest key for them on Friday night.
Well, and you go back to last year when he took this job over, and the big story was their off-season workouts. They have 50 guys that showed up last year.
Mm-hmm.
That, for a first-year coach who, now I understand that you can watch him from afar and you can see what he does with the Neshannock. And yeah, these guys all talk to each other, and I'm sure most of them are in the same social circles and things like that. But until you actually are being coached by him, you have no idea what to expect from him. But 50 guys showed up to work out for him the first time that he had an open gym or the weight room was open. If you didn't think that this team was going to be committed to winning then, I don't know what was going to convince you.
Yeah.
And that was last year, and they started 4-0. Okay, they didn't handle things down the stretch. That's to be expected from a team that's in the first year under a new guy. Now it's like, man, the light bulb went off, and he knew this was coming. Coaches,
for him to leave where he was at Neshannock with the couple guys that they got coming through.
He knew that these guys were coming, to help this team, and he knew he was going to get Kai Cox to come back out and play football. He knew Marino Graham was coming. He probably kept in touch with the youth guys and stuff and knew that. These guys all talk. They all share information. They can go to whatever game they want to. They can watch whatever player they want to. So he knew what he was coming into, but you still have to make it yours. You can't. There was so much bad taste left in the mouth of some of those guys who were on the team last year, and now look at the difference in them. I know Kyrell Harris is gone, but look at how much better Chase Lemon's playing. Look at how much better Damian Harrison's playing. Look at how much better. Look what he's done for Jaden Schaefer. I mean, he's made him an all-conference potential all-state defensive lineman. Look at the linemen that he has playing up front. Lucas Morgan, Mike Harris. Mike Harris is not even 200 pounds, and he's he's played some of the best at center that I've seen of any team that we've covered this season. He's getting everything out of everybody. They just keep every single week I've seen them. It'll be 3 times now on Friday. They keep playing with like an emotion, a fire. They literally buy into like the 1-0 thing. Every week they buy into the 1-0 thing. That's a stale thing this week.
But, I wasn't going to say it.
But the point being, like, they get it. They understand it. Everything that he tells them or sells them, they buy. And if you want to be a winning program and you want to restore some pride, there's a lot of pride in this town. There's a lot of pride behind that athletic program. There's a lot of pride in that fan base. You see it every Friday night. The players still have to buy into it.
Right.
They still have to be the one that bears the flag, and they've done it all season long. It's been remarkable to watch them.
You'll get a chance to watch them with us. Eric Thomas and Tim Continenza on the call on Friday night from Taggart Stadium for that game, Newcastle against West Allegheny. The other game that we'll have coverage of on Friday night is the Neshannock against Southside game. And, Neshannock, again, it's assignment football, similar to what we just talked about with West Allegheny. You got to, it's a wing tee offense. If you do your assignments right, you're holding them to 1 or 2 yards per play. As soon as you miss one assignment, now it's 8 or 9 yards in the play. You miss 2 assignments on a single play, and they're off to the races. You got to play assignment football. I think they only had 5 possessions when they played down at Southside last year, Eric. 5 possessions in the entire game, because that's what Southside does. They shorten a game with that ground attack. Neshannock went into the bag of tricks and got one of the top plays of the year in their late touchdown. It would not surprise me if we're in that very similar scenario this year where it's going to take a special individual play or drawing something up that hasn't been seen before.
Yeah, they might have to do it. I just think that this Neshannock team can shift it into another gear, and their offensive line settling in after some of the reshuffling, so they're going to be ready to go. I see too many horses for this Southside team to contend with right now. I know they've played very good football, and I expect nothing less than the absolute best from a Luke Trevelpe's team. But this Neshannock team is starting to kind of get into form, and they're starting to be what I think they're going to be in the next couple of weeks in the playoffs. And that's going to be a really tough team to beat, the way they're running the football behind that offensive line. We still haven't seen Gino take over a game or play his best yet. I mean, that's
scary to think.
That is scary to think about. I mean, if he has to go win a game, he has absolutely potential to do that. But they can just hand the ball off, get the ball to their playmakers. I know that they've been banged up in recent weeks, but there's still too much firepower on this team. And I just don't, this gets into a track meet, it's advantage Neshannock. If it gets into a high-scoring game, it's advantage Neshannock. If it gets into a defensive game, maybe you favor Southside a little bit more. Certainly if it's low-scoring, you favor Southside. Certainly if it becomes a lot more physical than what Neshannock wants it to be, it's going to favor Southside, but that's asking an awful lot for them to do.
Neshannock has to avoid the early turnover. They've had a couple too many of the early ones playing from behind. This is not a team you want to play against from behind because, again, they're going to shorten the game as much as possible.
You can't give them extra possession.
No, not at all.
Any extra opportunity to wear that clock out, forget it.
That is a 7 o'clock start at Bob Bludgy Stadium. Senior night there as well, like it is at Taggart for the Lancers. Justin Edworthy, I want to give a mention to him as well because he's gotten more and more yards in the last couple of games. Again, a great change of pace guy as necessary. But Anthony Aiken's running at a whole nother level. Again, 100 yards now in 4 straight games. We do have one county versus county game on Friday night as well. Shenango hosting Laurel in a game that you explained it very well, Eric. This is a game for Laurel that they need, that they're glad to have before the top 2. Not that Shenango is, a warm-up type thing, but they're a better opponent than what Laurel has seen the last 3 weeks. And yes, on paper, they're probably a step behind where we've seen Southside and Neshannock. This is a good tune-up to get you ready for the game, but you got to take care of business. And anytime you're going on the road against a county foe, look out. You got to play your A game, otherwise things are not going to look at the end.
This is a rivalry game. It's going to be a lot of emotion. This is going to be a Super Bowl style game for Shenango. I think that they're still going to be in the conversation when the week is over, but it's an uphill battle for them if they lose this game for sure. So they're nothing guaranteed for them, but this is going to be an emotional game. I want to see them press Laurel a little bit, and Laurel have to respond to it. And if it's early, if it's in the first half, if it drags to halftime, Shenango seems like they're more than capable of dragging this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. I mean, just the way they play, they're a little methodical now. Where it gets interesting for this game, because we mentioned it earlier, Caleb McConnell, percentage-wise, was really good last Friday. He was 8 of 14, but he only threw for 67 yards, and he was picked off twice. He can't make a mistake. I'm going to be really curious to see what they do with him, if they throw with him a lot. They didn't take a lot of chances against Neshannock, and they didn't have to do anything the week before that against Northgate. So 2 weeks before that against Northgate, they just could line up and pound the football. They're not going to be able to do that against Laurel. He's going to have to make plays in this game. It's going to have to be a community effort for Shenango, and they're going to have to rely on, just Albertini, McConnell. All these guys are going to have to show up and contribute in this game. Otherwise, Laurel, I think if they can step on the gas, they for sure will.
They have for the last 21 years. They are 12-0 since 2004 against Shenango. It's all Laurel on paper, but that's why you play the game.
That's tough. Yeah. That's a tough trend to buck right there. That is for sure a bad trend.
Just look at what Newcastle did against Aliquippa, though. That was their first win against them since 1987. So you've already seen it in recent memory. In fact, Shenango beating Mohawk was the first time in a long time that they have done that as well. That's a 7 o'clock start from Glenn Pop Johnston Stadium. We'll have some social media coverage of that one there from Shenango High School. Real quick, D10, Wilmington taking on Mercer. In 10 words or less, Eric, Wilmington.
Yeah, next.
Wilmington next. What level, what percentage do you need to have Chase Mitchelltree play before he's playing?
I mean, if you get him back out there, you can ease him in, maybe get him some first half carries, but why risk it?
Yeah.
Why, if you don't need him, why risk it?
Yeah, I'm with you. You don't want to make him rusty before the playoffs, but if he's anything under 90%, I think, let the other horses do their job too, because they certainly have plenty of them to go around. Class 2A, let's start with the Union traveling to Freedom, another team that has a wing T offense. They have to be a very disciplined defense. Union, again, another step up on the offensive side. A freshman we haven't talked about much, Bonte Booker, he had his biggest game of his high school career, over 120 yards total offense, as Gavin Likens just told us there. They're going to have to take on Caden Bailey as a big part of that wing T offense on defense. I want to give a shout out to Jordan Kelly, though, because he moved to wide receiver for part of that game. Zach Rich throws a few passes. Kelly, I think, had 3 receptions, including a touchdown.
Yeah, we saw that when they played Riverside. I said it during that game that they need to really develop a quarterback and let some of these guys, I know you're trying to take your best athlete and move him to that position so he touches the ball all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think that there's guys that are better suited to play other positions and develop somebody and take your lumps with them, but maybe have a guy who can play for 2 or 3 years and, have a steady hand at that court. It's the most important position on the field. Mm-hmm. So, Kim Nabaldi is going to do what's right. This is now the time of the year. They're out of the playoff mix. They're not going to make it. I think they know that it's a long shot. If they do, they have to win out if they have any shot. But I do think that he will take this time wisely to work on some things for the future, especially with the guys that are coming back. It's time to have some fun. Sometimes like these games at the end of the year, if you're out of the mix, they're fun, because you don't care.
Pressure's off, right?
Yeah, no pressure. You don't care what you do, what you throw out there. Have a little fun, work on something, maybe give the guys a little something to take with them. But time to start the run for next season, or the way this team is going to progress next season starts now, and work on that and start focusing on some of the guys that'll be back for you and put them in the right positions and work on that in the offseason. They'll be fine.
Mohawk Western Beaver, another game, probably going to be a high-scoring affair the way both those teams have scored the last couple of weeks. Western, we don't know if they're going to have their running back. Wyatt Sparbani, again, left early in the game against Elwood City. Doesn't matter. That quarterback, Amari Marshall, half of them weren't design runs. He still went for 190-plus yards on the ground. He's also a freshman that's getting the job done. Did not think we'd be saying this about Western Beaver, considering when Javen Peel left. But they're the team to beat definitely in the conference and pretty much all of Class 2A. it's going to take something special for Mohawk to be able to get this done, and they need to get it done if they want to get the playoffs.
Yeah, we know that their best running back is Catch Stratton. He's out. Bobby Fadden can't turn the ball over, and this team, if they get into a game in which it's tight at halftime, they've got to make the plays that Elwood City didn't a week ago to get away from that. And they saw the firepower to do it. They certainly have the potential to put points on the board. They may have to get into a high-scoring game, a little bit more of a freelance game. I would say that would favor Mohawk in a little ways. If Wyatt Sparabani isn't going to play, that definitely favors Mohawk because you take somebody off the field that's been so good. They can focus their attention on one guy. Western Beaver isn't going to pass the ball much. We know that. They can use those secondary guys maybe to cheat up a little bit, stop the run, and hope that they can get some big plays. This is win or go home for Mohawk. Simple as that. They have to win this game if they want any shot at the playoffs. There is no margin for error for this team going forward if they lose this game. There's no margin for error for them now. They have to win it. Simple as that.
That game available only on the Mohawk Huddle page. By the way, the Union Freedom game you can watch if you search Freedom Huddle on your search engine of choice. The final game, real quick, another Red Val Cup matchup between Elwood City and Riverside. Elwood City hosting Riverside in this one. Riverside has a game up in the standings. This game is going to be another bloodbath, basically, between these two heated rivals, just about 3 miles apart, the two high schools. And I think the main thing is, again, Elwood City defensively has been very solid. Quiet, but solid in stopping a lot of these higher-powered offenses, or at least limiting them. They're going to have a tough time doing that. They got to find a way to slow down Hunter Garcia and slow down Mason Haller in that running game.
Yeah, and to come back from it, they've been in this situation before. They were decimated by Laurel beginning of the year. They came back. They won a few games that, they really kind of kept low scoring or made it like a little bit of a junkyard dog fight in the game. That's what Elwood City's going to have to do. They're going to have to kind of drag their opponents down to them, kind of make it a physical struggle. They feel like they can win those style of games. Big night, if you ask me, for Travis Smiley. He comes up with some big plays. I think they're going to be okay. Be good to see him bounce back and put his team in a good position to win the game. And again, this defense is good enough. They can make the plays to win the game. They understand what they're up against. There's no better coach maybe to put them in that situation than Dan Bradley right now. Speaking right now, like of a team that needs to have a win, I would probably put my money on Dan Bradley. So they ride that, and hopefully they can come out with a win. And if they do, they're still in the mix.
And I think Tyler Smiley, the main thing for him too is the fact that he has he has avoided those turnovers for the most part in the last few games. Had a couple here or there, but early on in the year, I think he had like at one point 3 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Now that ratio is back completely even at 9 touches and 9 interceptions. He's quietly got the number 2 passing yards in the county right now too. So he's getting the job done quietly, efficiently. And I think the same thing. Elwood City will shorten the game and try to essentially do what Union did to Riverside in the opening week as well of conference play. Shorten the game, trust on your defense to make the plays, maybe be bend, don't break a little bit, and in the end, find a way to get it into into Frisk's hands and to Curitan's hands, or those 2 great wideouts, or in Dom Hogue, Daylon Carey. You got the players who can do it. Just get it in their hands and let them go make a play. I
think maybe the best defense that Riverside's played since Laurel. So that Laurel, if that Laurel game taught them anything, it's they have problems with that style of defense. So I think that Elwood City's going to play tough in this game. This is probably going to go 4 quarters. If they have enough firepower on offense, they win the game. If they don't, it's probably similar to what it was a week ago. But we've also watched this Riverside team a couple times this year, and we've seen them be offensively challenged. So this is a game in which the defense maybe either it's a pick, set up a short field, or maybe it's even a turnover into a touchdown, or maybe it's a special teams play that they set them up short field or a return, something like that. Elwood City's going to have to tap into all 3 phases to take some pressure off their offense. But if they need to rely on their defense, they have to feel pretty comfortable doing that. Look, they played really well against Western Beaver last week. They were in that game till the 4th quarter. Western, that's one of their lowest point totals of the season, believe it or not. And it wasn't like they ran for 600 yards. They ran for 254. Yeah, okay, that's a lot. I understand that. But, it wasn't enough like that they were out of the game and just completely dominated. Elwood City still had a shot to win that thing in the second half. They just needed to find the firepower on offense.
1 or 2 plays can make a difference each and every week. No doubt about it. Eric Thomas, we got a couple minutes left to go. I wanted to pick your brain on one final topic here. With the multitude of the forfeits that have happened, or the the mercy requested games and all that, there's been another proposal that's been sent out there regarding how to maybe better align the conferences. First off, that proposal, no, not even close to being something that would ever be taken seriously. The question I have, because you've seen it a lot from the other side of the state, especially of the mixed classification conferences or regions or whatever, versus in the WPIL right now, they're going straight up. Your conference is Class 1A. It's all 1A opponents, period. Do you think that doing a mixed classification system, more regionalized, would help in any way with what the WPIL scheduling-wise has been doing?
So let's think about this from a geographic standpoint. Where's Fox Chapel located? Like, who would they play if they were going to realign them geographically?
Basically, all the same teams that they were playing, a lot of 5A, 6A schools.
So what's the difference?
Right.
That's why the plan stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, flat out stinks. Like, listen, go play your game. So here's what I want to understand about Fox Chapel. And I'm not trying to rip on them. You had enough players to go out on the field last week and get your guy a WPIL record field goal in your game. You had enough players to play 4 quarters in that game. What are we trying to say? Are we just boo-hooing because we can't win games? Okay, well, if you can't win games, there's a couple ways you can change that. You can start at your youth level and go like a 10-year style program and go to like 5th grade and start building this thing up, and not recruit players, but make sure your best athletes are at least considering football and try to get them on the field and develop them, and give all your youth teams the same playbook, run the same offense, put everything in their lap, and give it to them and let them play it for 4 or 5 years before they get to high school. And then by the time they get there, they're already well versed in it. They understand the terminology. All the coaches are on the same page. The varsity coach is helping out the youth coaches. The youth coach is coming up to learn from the varsity coaches, that kind of thing. Watch film with them, learn how to break it down, learn how to, push the information out to the players, and build your program. I mean, it's as simple as that. That's what football is. You don't just like snap your finger. This isn't NIL where you go buy guys from Texas and California and, Oregon or wherever. You have to grow these guys. And I understand participation is down in football. At least I think it's up this year for the most part, but it's still, as a whole, it's still down. In our area,
yes, it is. But over the state, it is down.
It's still down. And the quality of football in this state is not what it was 10 years ago, what it was 15 years ago, what it was 20 years ago, certainly what it wasn't 25 or 30 years ago. Like when I was a kid, the quality of football was 1,000 times better than what it is now. A lot of parents are worried about kids getting hurt. A lot of kids aren't playing because they feel like they're best opportunities at other sports. Get them interested in it. Start building your program up from the ground up, develop, and get them up here. That's simple as that. And there's no ways around it. If you don't want to do that, then A, don't coach, or B, merge with another school and try to get something going there with a co-op.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to fix these things. There are a lot of teams that should be in a co-op situation. There's a couple of them here. Rochester should think about that.
Right.
Personally, I think they should. New Brighton, I thought maybe a couple years ago should think about that, but now they seem like they're around. And, you might only have like a 2 or 3 year window if you develop your kids like that. But at the same time, isn't the 2 or 3 year window where you might be really good better than just boo-hooing it and saying, well, we need to go play geographic opponents who are going to do the same thing to you that those same geographic opponents are doing to you now?
My only argument is that I want to see a schedule where I can make my schedule in the non-conference games.
Now that I agree with. The WPIL should have nothing to do with any of these schedules,
and I can't
outside of the conference.
And I can't believe that the report that they are given is that a majority of the ADs and coaches say they want the WPIL to make those scheduling choices. I
haven't talked to one AD in 3 years of living out here that has ever said they want the WPIL to make that.
Yeah.
So it was the same thing with basketball. So like when they had the situation 2 years ago, I remember talking to, and I'm going to out him by saying this, but 2 years ago I was talking to Mike O'Lear at a Mohawk playoff game. And I don't think he would care if I was telling you this story, but we were talking about the schedule for the state finals and how nobody that he talked to liked the fact that you played a semifinal Monday or Tuesday, and then the state finals were the same week. We've all said for years that we wish the state finals were a Friday, Saturday, semifinals were a Friday, Saturday. You don't have any games Monday or Tuesday. You have a week off, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday for your state finals.
Yeah.
All they need to do is move the state tournament back to the weekend after district champ. Like it should start Tuesday night after district championships are over.
Which is what they did the year after COVID, correct?
Correct. Yes. So, and they did it for years too. So if you won your district title on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, state started Tuesday or Wednesday. You know, for you it would be Wednesday. If you go Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and voila, you've got a week off to prepare for the state finals. It'd be better for everybody involved. Well, the PIAA did look at that, and then they said, the majority of the coaches said that they didn't want, they preferred the way it is. Now, I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that no coaches said that. I'm sure plenty of them were like, we don't care. We just want to go play basketball. But every one of them I talked to was like, no, the state semis should be on Friday or Saturday. And I probably talked to about 25 guys who coach, whether they're assistants or they're head coaches. And they were like, we would much rather have the games on Friday, Saturday, a week off, and then state finals on Thursday, Friday,
Because
Saturday.
where are the majority of those coaches going to end up being? Just in that first week. Give me as much time for that first week. No, you got to think about what's best for the entirety of everything. And I agree with that statement, and I agree with that same mindset of with the football schedule. Is you got to be able to give a team the chance to make your schedule. For example, Union knows they have a lot of young players this year. Them playing Washington in a non-conference game, probably not beneficial for them this year. No. Why would they keep that on their schedule when they could go and find somebody else that might is a little bit?
You need to be able to negotiate your own schedule for those conference games,
not just for the week 0
or for the non-conference games. Not just for week 0. It needs to be for the first 3. Now, if you opt to play the extra scrimmage, that's on you. You only get 2 non-conference games, then that's fine. And I understand there's going to be some imbalance there because, like, look, Neshannock played Burgettstown over the week, last weekend. But there's going to be somewhere along the line where you're going to pick another one up. Schools should have the final say in that. If Neshannock wants to play North Allegheny, go play them. Yeah. It shouldn't be up to some governing body. This is the problem with sports now is too many guys in suits are involved in everything with it. And I'm not just talking about like from a district level. I'm talking like politically and politicians and, we have all these hearings about separating the public and private and blah, blah, blah and everything. Guys, this isn't hard to figure out. Like you don't need the WPIL, which I'm going to get on another soapbox at some point. I don't think they're the greatest district on the planet. Like, I'm just going to be honest about that. Like, I'm not a huge fan of how they do things anyway. But at the same time, I also like, what are you taking that right away from the school for? What? So like, if North Allegheny says, "Hey, we want to go play Harrisburg," week 0, we want to go clash with them. In a cross-state matchup. Maybe we won't see them in the state semis again, but we want to go play them. We want to go play them in a neutral site in Altoona because there's no game there. Have like a showcase type game there. Why not? And
for our example, why the heck do we not have a chance to have a Neshannock against Wilmington, 2 schools that are 5 miles apart in different districts? Why would that not be permissible to try to do? Now,
how good would Laurel Wilmington be this year? How good would Neshannock Wilmington be this year? I mean, even at the beginning of the year when they were playing some of their best football, how good would Mohawk and Wilmington be?
Right.
There's all kinds of matchups that these teams need to play. And the fact that somebody sits in an office and goes, yep, we're going to put that team here and that team here and that team here, it's not right.
Yeah, and in the end, if it's because you have too many ADs that claim that it's easier for the WPL to do it, first off, shame on the ADs that say that. Second off, okay, let the teams who want to make their own schedule, let them go and do it first, and then we'll schedule the rest.
Yeah.
That should be an easy fix whatsoever. Trust me, I would love to have a Lawrence County 1A, 2A conference, but not on the not taking everything else away for sure. That's going to be more discussions when the realignment starts to come out. I believe at the end of November is when the numbers start to trickle in, and we start to see where those alignments are going to be. But that's for another day down the road. Real quick, Eric, minute left to go. Give me your World Series.
I think right now probably the Dodgers and let's see, the Cubs just won, so they're going to go to a Game 5 in that series. Probably Dodgers, Blue Jays, I would think.
That'd be good.
I'm a diehard Yankees fan, but I can't see them winning that series. I think Dodgers, Blue Jays will be fun.
You heard it right there, folks. Dodgers, Blue Jays is what we're going to be getting. What you're going to be getting on Friday night for sure here at lcsportsnet.com is Newcastle against West Allegheny and Neshannock against Southside. Don't forget, tomorrow we also have Neshannock Southside on the boys soccer front as well, and then more playoff games, or not playoffs yet, the final stretch run before the playoffs in volleyball and soccer next week. We'll also have junior high girls basketball championships early in the week next week as well. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you're listening any way you get your podcast, watching on Facebook or Twitter or on YouTube, we appreciate you tuning in to Beyond the Scoreboard. For Eric Thomas, I'm James Dotson. See you later. Friday Night Lights coming your way. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the games coming up at lcsportsnet.com, powered by LCAP.